Alright, while I'm waiting for these games to finish downloading so I can resume benchmarking for my next video, I thought I'd give you guys a bit of a overview and rundown of my setup for 2018 for video editing and gaming. A few of you guys have been asking for a little bit of a tour, so let's go. A successful desk setup is one which achieves balance between form and function. It needs to give you everything you need to efficiently complete the tasks at hand, but still be appealing and refreshing to look at. For me at least, my desk setup is where I spend the majority of my time. Literally, most of my life is spent at this desk, working, creating content, and of course gaming. Design-wise, I like to minimize the things that can be minimized without significant drawbacks, and then go big on the hardware that matters. For example, my PC enclosure sits humbly towards the top right corner of my desk, but still houses a very powerful system. Keyboard is also tiny, and lighting is aimed to be minimal as well. In contrast, the mousepad, monitor, and the desk itself are the largest components of the setup, and this gives me plenty of room and space where it matters. Let's start with the monitor, which is the X34 Predator from Acer. I've used 16:9 monitors in the past, but the 21:9 aspect ratio is so enjoyable to work with. From stretching your timeline across the display while video editing to gaming with a more immersive and involved experience, which absolutely pulls you into whatever you're doing. The X34 Predator has been out for a couple years now, and since has been succeeded by updated models with a higher refresh rate, but I'm really content for now, and I think I'll keep hold of it until 144Hz options step up to take the throne. It's overclockable up to 100Hz, has G-Sync, a resolution of 3440 by 1440. Summing up, this thing is an absolute pleasure to work with every single day. Now, before we go any further, the desk I'm using here is the IKEA Carlby countertop sitting on top of two grey Alex drawers. It's a combination that is becoming fairly common and one that produces a ton of desk space and drawers to stuff away all of your clutter. The dark wood finish on the Carlby countertop is what drew me to it in the first place, giving it a more organic and homey feel compared to a plain white office surface, which can feel a little bit sterile at times. Taking a look underneath, cable management is made relatively easy with the IKEA Signum rack, which is currently holding a ton of cables, a lot of which are routed from the power board on the left, which I've stuck here with double-sided tape. It is a little bit messy if I'm honest, but the bright side is that all of the cables are kept off the floor, which is my main concern. Moving on to my current PC, which I've titled Fusion 2. It's used primarily for video editing and content creation, but gaming as well whenever I want to kick back at the end of a long day. If you're new to the channel, I'd recommend checking out the build video that I did a few months back. It's been a fan favorite amongst the subscribers, so I'll leave a link to that in the top right hand corner. The case is the Ncase M1, which I've done a couple of mods to, and as I mentioned in the intro, despite this being a tiny case, it is incredibly optimized for hardware compatibility, and in return we are rocking a pretty powerful system. Inside is an i7 8700K overclocked to 5GHz, an EVGA GTX 1080 Ti SC2, an MSI Z370i Pro Carbon motherboard, Noctua D9L CPU cooler, 16GB of DDR4 Dominator Platinum memory, an SF600 power supply, and also some fast storage for those editing gains. The 8700K has also been an absolute breeze to edit with, and the 1080 Ti is a beast when it comes to powering the ultrawide display for gaming. Okay, now onto my keyboard and mouse combo. These two are a couple recent additions that I've made and are definitely here to stay, and let's start with the keyboard, which by the way I did a review on last week if you want to check that out. This is the An Pro by Obens with brown switches, and this thing is incredible value for just $89. It's mechanical, RGB, wireless, and all in a nice compact 60% form factor. I do keep it plugged in for the most part despite it being wireless, as I do want the best response time time possible while I'm gaming, but luckily the cable isn't too much of an eyesore. The mouse I'm using is the Logitech G703. It's also wireless, which I'm a huge fan of, especially while gaming, and since using this, I don't think I can ever go back to a wired mouse for daily use. It's nice and light at about 105 grams, which makes it great for first-person shooters. The comfort is brilliant, and it feels like it was made especially for my hands. I also really love the fact that you can easily increase or decrease the DPI with the macro buttons on the side for either desktop use or gaming. The mouse pad I'm using is the extended mouse mat from Glorious. It gives me more than enough room for the usable space for my keyboard and mouse and more. There's not really a whole lot to say here for a mouse mat, but for $25 this is honestly a steal. Perfect if you have a wide desk setup like I do. Next, let's talk about audio, and you may have noticed that I'm not running any amps or preamps in my setup, and that's because both my headphone and my condenser microphone do not require them. I said back in 2017 that I had planned on upgrading to a more powerful set of headphones and probably an XLR powered mic as well, but over time I have learned to love the premium quality that you can achieve with these two low power solutions. And let's start with my microphone, which is what you're listening to right now. This is the Rode NT USB condenser microphone, and while not cheap at $169 US, the quality is absolutely fantastic for a USB mic. This microphone has been with me since the beginning of the channel about a year ago, and I distinctly remember the day I purchased it. It was the day that I truly committed myself to pursuing content creation. You can plug your headphones directly into the side, which you can also control the volume with, and I love that you can also monitor the microphone audio as well. I find it especially useful for gaming so that I can hear myself among my teammates. I've recently mounted it on the Rode PSA-1 boom arm as well, which allows me to tuck it behind the monitor while I'm not using it, and then get it in the perfect position for voiceovers and gaming. I'm also using the Rode PSM-1 shock mount, and this prevents any desk vibrations or shocks translated into low frequencies into the mic. For my headphones, I'm still using the Philips Fidelio X2s, although they are slowly starting to show their age over time. As I mentioned before, these don't require an amp to power them, as they have a very low impedance of 30 ohms, which is definitely appreciated if you're trying to save a little bit of cash. If you're a bit of a bass head like me, then you'll absolutely love these things. Hip-hop music sounds extremely powerful through those drivers, and these are arguably the best set of headphones that you can pick up for $300. They are open back, which produces a nice wide soundstage while gaming and also for critical listening. I honestly have nothing bad to say about these at all, other than I wish they didn't pick up so much dust. I've got these hanging on the Luxor 2 headphone hanger, which is a fairly cheap and simple aluminium stand, which does the job just fine. Not much to say here other than I'm really happy with it. Okay, now to finish up, I want to talk about the lighting, as I believe this can make a huge difference to the overall mood and experience of your setup. To show what I mean, this is what the setup looks like at night with the cringy tungsten roof lighting that I've got in my apartment. It looks pretty terrible in my opinion, and then here's what a few table lamps can achieve in the same space, completely transforming the lighting into an inviting, productive workspace. I'm currently using two LifeX bulbs behind the monitor, which I installed into two touch lamps, and I can easily control color and brightness over Wi-Fi. For the majority of the time, I have them set to this teal and white setup, which absorbs perfectly on a lot of my peripherals. But when doing a more color critical workflow, I like to set these both to a color temperature of 5500K for the best accuracy. There's a ton of things that you can do with them, but I like to keep it pretty simple. I've also got a couple for the studio as well because they're so useful and versatile. And lastly, I've got a couple plants off to the side just to fill that void that would otherwise be there. It gives the setup a more organic feel, and I do believe that contrast between plants and then precision machined computer hardware does look quite special, so they're also quite useful for filming as well. And so let me know what you guys think of the current state of my video editing and gaming setup for 2018. Let me know what you would change or maybe add to improve this setup. Thank you all so much for watching, and as always, I will see you all in the next one.